Welcome to another edition of Kirkland's Corner, where we bring the heat every single week. I'm your host, Walter Kirkland. What an honor to be here. What we're going to do is do an introduction, live interview, question and answers. I'm going to close this out. But this is on behalf of You Broadcast Media. I want to thank you. Also, 2106 Multimedia. Couldn't do it without you. We have people from Budapest, Italy, believe it or not, folks. Washington out there in Seattle, Chicago, California. It's going to be a great event here for this great edition of Kirkland's Corner. Make sure everybody mute your phones when you get a chance. So let's kick this thing off. You know, we try to bring engaging guests every single week, and John was nice enough to do this. Let me tell you who's in the house, folks out there in Zoom land in the audience. And we have a live audience here too, by the way. Dr. Terry is a highly sought-after expert on wireless networks, protocols, innovation. He holds 31 domestic and 20 international patents, with 20 pending patents. Dr. Terry is a former CTO, co-founder of PlusN, a leading solution provider for smart carrier aggregation for 4G and 5G networks. He has over 30 years of experience collaborating with multiple market players, including Nokia, AT&T, Verizon, Raytheon, and Halliburton. In 2007, the History Makers inducted Dr. Terry, wow, congratulations, brother,
Thank you.
for his lifetime achievements in science and technology. He's also in a category for the U.S. Library of Congress History Makers that exhibit, host, and archive his video interview. He holds a PhD in electrical engineering from the Georgia Institute of Technology. He also is a WAN wireless LAN expert. He invented a thing called, is it Nevislink?
Oh, Invisalink.
Invisalink. It secures mobile data, keeping personal identifiable information and private, keeping IoT devices continuously connected. There's just one problem, right, John? It's money.
Always.
And John needs to raise money. He needs some $1 million to raise money. And the money will help build this embedded chip. He's going to talk about this a little bit later, as you see behind me, this computer technology. The product will ensure data privacy, security, connections. He's asking the community to help, and he needs some help now. So let's also talk about a little bit about his global patents, textbooks, wireless LANs, practical IEE. He also has, with his business structure, he's worked with some really unique companies. Smart cities, gunshot detection systems. John will talk about that. And a slew of other technologies. Give it up for Mr. John Terry. Make some noise here in the audience. There we go. John, I don't know where to start, John. Tell us a little bit about you. Where are you from?
I'm from Norfolk, Virginia, so I'm a local boy. So born and raised. I went to Old Dominion University. One of my good friends in ODU.
Yeah.
From undergrad. He's here to support me. It's happened to be his birthday as well, so we give him a shout out.
Beautiful.
Right there.
Happy birthday.
Right. I left Old Dominion, Norfolk, Virginia, and I went to Cleveland, Ohio, because I just wanted to do something different. Started out my career at NASA Research Institute.
Beautiful.
NASA Research Center. Back then it was called NASA Lewis, but today it's called NASA Glenn. And there I had a pretty promising young career, and they sent me to school to get my PhD. Full salary.
Full salary.
To Georgia Tech.
That's impressive. So tell us about your company itself. Tell us about your products. Where do you start? You have so many. First of all, how many patents do you have?
So I have 31 domestic patents, and I have 40 international patents.
Unbelievable. Give them a round of applause, everybody. That's amazing. That's impressive.
Thank you.
What kind of products do you get involved with?
So overall, I would say that we're in wireless in general, wireless security more specifically. We have a number of products that are geared to not only protecting your individual data, but in the case with our gun alert system, that basically protect lives themselves, right? So we are, actively doing a lot of work with DoD, and some of our products are being targeted to help soldiers' lives. And so
how does your software work?
So actually, it's both software and hardware. So that's a distinction between us than some other products. Oftentimes, people want to know, do you have an app? Well, yes, you have an app, but the app has to be powered by something, right? So we,
That's correct.
as individual users, don't always know about sort of the engines that are running behind the scenes. That we just take for granted that you turn on your phone and everything works the way it should work.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of innovation that goes into building up the platform on which your applications run. And so we're building both products. And our biggest cost item is the platform itself, right? Because it's hardware, and hardware that simply takes a lot of money. And if you have been following the news recently, there was something Congress passed called the CHIPS Act.
I remember.
Right, and so the CHIPS Act the chip is trying to lower our dependency on China and foreign competitors for our semiconductors, right? It's not only something to help with our pricing locally, but it's also considered a national security issue, right? Because if we are cut off from our electronics, not only does it impact your everyday lifestyle, but it also endangers us on the battlefield as well. So we actually play in both of those spaces.
How do you differentiate between another chip maker? Excuse my ignorance. What makes you so unique?
So we are not a chip maker so much, just so the audience
knows. Marketer?
We are a chip user.
Chip user for your products.
So we don't build chips. We literally think about like a camera, right? You have a film, and then when you make when you want prints out, you take the negatives and you make prints. So we create the negatives for the chip, and they print them for us.
And they print them for you.
They print the chips for us, right? And so it's the Intels, the Intels of the world, something called TSMC, Global Foundries, the other people who print the chips for you. And so the CHIPS Act is to bring more of that offshore back into the States.
Back into the States.
And then also get small businesses to use our chips locally, like America First kind of slogan thing. That helps us domestically. It keeps jobs in the States and creates jobs for your local community and so on and so forth. Right?
So you have you work with the Army right now. What do you do with the Army?
Right. So the Army has been paying for most of the research around this technology, and so we like to say that this technology was built for the battlefield and reimagined for everybody's everyday lifestyle. Right. In the battlefield, oftentimes the soldiers are out there without a lifeline. Right. And so communications is the key to keeping them safe.
That's right.
Right. And so what you don't want to happen is those soldiers' communications to fail them. Right? And that's where our technology come in. So we make the claim that we are the most resilient technology out there. So again, built for the battlefield. And how does that help you in your everyday life is that, there's a lot of security breaches out there, and our technologies are meant to not only deal with the known threats that everyone else hears about, but the unknown threats that are classified. And we're in the process of undergoing testing to further make our solution more resilient.
So explain to our viewers why it's so expensive for the testing and the validation of.
Well, that's that's a very good question. So when you build a chip, and you need so there's a lot of you just don't walk in a lab one day and just say I want you to print this thing out for me. So there's a lot of software simulation that must take place, and those software simulation tools can cost millions of dollars.
Why?
It's just the sort of the cost of entry for the business,
cost
right?
Of entry.
They need to make money as well, and they allow you to then once you build the mask that you can then print out your chips. It allows you to simulate all of that prior to building a mask. So once you harden the chip, you can't change it anymore, and so you don't want to build a chip that we call dead on arrival. So the software allows us to simulate a number of different use cases to make sure that when the chip comes back, it works, pretty much the way you expect it to. And today you can get 95% first pass success if done properly. So, and although the software is expensive, you can, you recoup that money by getting to your market early, not having to do what's called a respin, meaning to print the chip out again because you fall false into them. And you don't have that cost all year round. You just have that cost when you at that last, rush at the end where you want to spend a new chip. So so it's a heavy, expensive cost when you're
I
about
see.
to spend a chip, and then you basically lease the software, right? You don't keep it full
You
time.
lease it,
You
okay.
lease it, like leasing equipment. And when you don't need it, then you don't have to pay for that and your normal overhead expenses.
So what's the current state of affairs right now with your company in terms of the development, and what are you looking and asking for?
Right. So we have been trying to raise money, on a various different methods. Some crowdfunding.
Okay.
More recently, we're currently sponsored by a couple of U.S. Army grants.
Oh.
Right, that are specifically
Nice.
targeted for the entry points that we want. In the marketplace. We are, as of today, we're what's called the freeze point, meaning that there can be no more changes to the design until the chip, comes back. So today is our freeze, and so it's sort of a big day for us. We are expected to tape out. The word tape out means like you go take your negatives to the into Kinko's or somebody and print out your actual chip. So we're going to tape out in first quarter of January.
Oh, wow.
All right, so that's pretty exciting as well. I've been self-funding most of this, primarily. The reason is that almost all owners and founders have to put money into their company, because if you don't believe in yourself, no one else will.
That's
right?
true.
And the best way to show that you believe in yourself is to put your own money up, right? And so I put quite a bit of my own money into getting this product to the market. And hopefully, we do have some early indications that DoD would want to take this test chip that we're building and then put it into some of their products. Right? So that's sort of recent and good news. What we need money for is just the chip itself doesn't make it a product, right? So having a chip is not the same thing as having a product. So you have to take the chip and then make it a product. And those products might be anything from a headset to a sensor device.
So literally, chips are in everything we do in life. We take it for granted.
We take it for granted. Everything we do is driven in.
So a couple technical questions.
Sure.
Can you describe what your patents cover specifically?
Yes, so our patents are really focused in on. So just a little bit of a background. I spent my early years at Nokia Research Center, and I was the vice chair of what's considered today Wi-Fi. And so I wrote a book on that subject matter.
Very nice.
And so I'm a WLAN Wi-Fi expert. That's why I get retained for legal cases and such. Right. So what we did. In the industry, people are used to using their Wi-Fi. I have a proprietary solution, and I want people to adopt it. Well, the best way to get someone to adopt it is to have them use it in the way in which they're familiar with, right? And so our technology overlays Wi-Fi. So from an end user's perspective, it's just using Wi-Fi. But what's happening underneath the hood is that we're protecting your data by hiding and embedding the critical parts of your Social Security, birthday, and those sorts of things below the noise floor, so that someone that's observing your Wi-Fi connection don't know that there's a secondary channel ongoing.
So you have a secondary layer. Wow. For
right.
people out there in Zoom land, that's what he's saying in terms of its secondary security.
Right.
That protects us.
Protects you.
Huh. That's what it covers.
It also protects you, and it's also robust against eavesdropping. That was part of the reason that it protects you. If they can't hear your conversations, then they obviously can't steal your conversations.
That's true,
right?
in light of this crazy world we live in.
Right.
Can your technology be easily copied?
No, and so that's one of the benefits of it. Strangely enough, the technology is based on chaos theory.
Okay, explain.
So chaos theory is a natural occurring phenomenon that cannot be predicted if you don't know the underlying mechanics behind it. But if you do know the underlying mechanics, then you can predict it exactly, right? So that's the best of both worlds. It has the appearance of pure randomness, but you can know exactly what that randomness will happen at any time if you know the underlying equation. And so that part of our technology is trade secreted, just like the formula for Coke, right? So we don't publish that part.
Good example, like a formula of Coke, yeah.
So we don't publish that part of our solution. We tell you that if you license our technology, you get access to these codes that are based on chaos theory, that you can then tune for your own specific needs, and no one else will have those keys but you. Even we won't have those keys.
I see.
But we won't tell you how to generate the keys. That's still our proprietary trade secret.
So, John, who are your strategic partners and key customers? I know we spoke about it earlier. You said the Army. Anybody else?
Well, so we're speaking to people in the defense sector, intelligence sector, and also commercially. We are being a little bit careful because we call ourselves as being somewhat in stealth mode, right? But all the
Stealth
key,
mode.
right? So all the key players are familiar with what we're doing, right? And they have expressed interest. What they're looking for in this industry is they don't want to invest in something. They want to take something that's almost perfect or almost ready to go to market and put their brand on top of it and then sell it worldwide, right? And so that's where we're getting to that's where we are striving to get to that point where we can go to an Intel, a Qualcomm, an Apple, a Google, those type of folks and say, look, we have a solution, a ready-made solution for you that helps enhance your current product line, and you can take it for a spin.
So for the investors out there, how does royalties impact your patents?
Right. So royalties, it's interesting that you should ask that question. Royalty is probably the most efficient cash revenue stream that you can have.
I see.
Right? Because once you, say if you're a musician, musicians know this, once you make the record, you can license that record for the life of the record. People, people are getting licenses for their records 30 years out. Right?
That's true.
So from the standpoint of, from our perspective, we have like a 17-year lifespan for a U.S. patent. And so when we, and we have to continue to, create more innovations on top of the ones that currently exist, but we can then license that portfolio to these big guys, right? And you don't have to license it to one person. And so then the international patents come into play because you think about a large company like Apple or Samsung, they don't just sell in the U.S., they sell worldwide.
So is that the difference, John? It's just international versus domestic.
Right.
Is there any other differences?
Well, that's the attractiveness of the patent portfolio is that not only it is protected in the U.S., but it's protected worldwide. And for a large company that has a worldwide clientele, that's what they're looking for.
So, John, what would you tell, we have an investor who called me from Las Vegas right before we hopped on. What would you tell the investors about your dream and your technologies and your path? What would you tell them?
Well, I would tell them that, for us to be where we are today, I like to say we box outside our weight class, right?
You box outside your weight class. I like that.
Right.
You're going from middleweight to heavyweight.
Right. We box into heavyweight, but we're middleweight. The difference in that we have been very efficient and very successful with the money that we have gotten, more so than what is, so I would say a company that's at the similar state that we are would be like a $15 million funded company.
I see.
Right. But we have used grants, and we have used our relationship with incubators. They have given us what's called in-kind funding, meaning that they give us access to the software that I spoke of. They don't give us the cash directly, then we have to
But you have access to the software.
We have access to the software, which then allow us to produce the chips. And
inside information.
Right. And so then when we build these chips, it has the same value if someone else had raised the money, $10 million, and then took the $10 million and paid these guys $2 million. I got the same software as they have. I'm using the same software that the Intels, the Googles, and Apples are using. So, we're using all the same stuff as all the key players in the market.
That's exciting.
Right.
So, John, in the next 5 years, where would you want to be?
Retired.
Retired?
Retired, going out there and helping, the young men and women how they, don't go through the same problems that I went through to break through into the technology space, because technology is always going to be here, right? I've been singing this tune for 30 years. I started
That's a couple weeks.
I've been helping out students when I was first at NASA. Then at every job I've had, I've helped bring along our younger community to get them more involved into the STEM technology, because that's where I spent my whole career.
Right.
And so what I want to do to be able to be a source of funding to fund these ideas for the youth. Up until this point, I've only been able to try to inspire them to go into the industry.
I see. And what are some other new products that you're working on that's different? Anything unique or different as it relates to your offering?
Well,
I know you talked about gunfire.
right. Yeah, so that is probably our marquee solution.
The gunfire. And what is that? Explain that again with the gunfire.
So think about it. You hear every day about these mass shootings that's going on.
Yes.
And no one wants to hear that, but and it can be a political sensitive topic, but we're not political at all. What we're trying to do is save lives. And so the thought is that if you can detect the source once a gunfire is shot,
yes.
and you can then locate that the approximate location of the gunman through the echolocations from the sound, you can then take your information and direct folks who have your app to the safety zones in the school, and then instruct law enforcement.
How would you know the safety zone?
Because we have our technology sensors put throughout the school. We will detect where the source of the gunfire is, and you can geolocate on that source, and you know where the furthest part of the building is from that gunman. So that's what that's our big thing that we're really excited about bringing to the marketplace, because it has a more of a personal.
You could save lives.
You can save lives directly.
That's
right?
incredible.
Right. So the benefit of more so that oftentimes when there's an active gun scene, you come to the scene, law enforcement might be forced to shut off social media, because sometimes they do those things for that purpose, where our technology can't be jammed by that same type of technology. So while the gunman can be shut down, we can still have the victims and the folks.
You can communicate with the victims?
Law enforcement can still communicate with the victim even as they shut the gunman down. So
That's
the thing that we can do that no one else will be able to do. And that is predicated on the work that was first done, is being done by the Army for the soldiers and special forces folks.
So specifically, John, what are you looking for from a funding perspective? What would you, from an investor perspective, what's your real deal, Holyfield, so to speak?
Right. So we're looking to take the chip that we're taping out in the first quarter of January 2023, and we want to build a suite of products that demonstrate these. So we have already started some of the work. So we have some sensor products where you can wearable stuff like the soldiers. Wearables. You can put anywhere
on your body. Mm-hmm.
On your body. We'll have dongles that are attached so that you can keep track of your kids if you put it in the phone, and then you can have their
the
location.
dongle goes right in the phone.
Right in the phone.
Yeah.
And so, and eventually what you would see that as being part of the phone itself. You won't have a separate dongle once we get acquired or someone licenses our technology. So it would be just integrated in. And that's another reason why we're trying to make it a part of a Wi-Fi chip. So they won't have to create new space for us. They would just, instead of taking someone else's Wi-Fi, to take their Wi-Fi enhanced by our technology.
By your technology.
Enhanced by our technology.
Wow.
And so those are sort of the big key things that we're looking to build these products. These what's called minimum viable products.
Minimum viable
products to show industry this is how this technology can be used. Because oftentimes we're not aware, as we spoke about earlier, what are the underlying technologies that are powering the apps that we use, right? I can name 3 companies right now that everybody is,
name them.
Qualcomm, ARM, and NVIDIA. You probably never heard of these.
And what do they do?
So Qualcomm is every cell phone out there probably has a Qualcomm
excuse my ignorance
chip in there.
Right.
ARM is every software device, from the smallest to a toy, the toys you buy for your grandkids, to anything has an ARM processor in there. And NVIDIA are the whole graphics that you're looking on these screens. NVIDIA is providing that, they're market leader for that, and all the machine learning that's going on. Those are 3 names, and the people in our industry know who they are, but the average consumer don't know and really don't care, right? They just want to use the products that make their lives easier.
Make their lives easier. All right, so what we're going to do here, why don't we transition to some of our live interaction. Anybody in the audience has any questions? Come on up. Identify yourself. Come to the mic here. Thank you, Bernadette. Bernadette, tell them who you are, and the mic is so high. I wonder why they made the mic so high. Pull it down. Sam, help me, Sam. There we go. It's for tall people.
Yes, Obviously.
like John and myself. There we go.
There we go.
All right,
you.
that's good. That's good.
Thank you so much.
Bernadette, tell them
Okay,
who you are.
I'm Bernadette Fobbs. I'm a small business owner here in Prince George's County.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. And my question is, Dr. Terry, has the time it takes to get a patent approved ever impacted the product that you submitted for patent due to, market changing or requests from an agency?
Actually, that's a very good question because the patent process can take quite a while. So there's a couple of ways that you can combat that. So if the patent policy is first to report, right? So there's something called a provisional patent, whereas you can then submit a provisional patent, which just sort of captures the basics of your idea, and you have up to a year to convert it into a utility patent. At that point, you can then take that year to go out there, talk to the customer, learn more about the market, and then you can then incorporate those changes into the utility patents. But it's only a year, and so a lot of things can happen in that year, but there are things that can happen outside. So you have to be somewhat of a Nostradamus to be forward-looking, to think about what's out there and what your competitors are doing. So you need to keep your ears and eyes on.
Is there a statute of limitations after that year?
17. If you get granted a patent, you got 17 years on it, but it could take up to 5 years to get the patent. And I think that's sort of the nature of her question. What do you do when you're in that sort of intermediate mode, right? You just have to continue to move forward or just file new patents.
Awesome.
And so there's something called it's called a continuation in parts, which says that, hey, I have a basic patent and I found some new innovations on top of that patent. File a continuation of that patent, right? So then the priority date, meaning the time at which that you claim ownership to that idea, goes back to your original patent, right?
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you, Bernadette. Anybody else in the audience have a question, comment? Yes, come on up, Wayne. This is Wayne Carey. It's his birthday, by the way, and
My good friend.
he went to school with John, and he's also a member of the 100 Blackman. Wayne, thank you for hanging out tonight.
Absolutely. Good to see you all. Good to see you, John. Good to see you all.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to school with John. I remember we went through engineering school together
That's impressive.
and made it on through. One of, I think, 4 African Americans who graduated that year.
Oh, wow.
In the engineering department. So
Congratulations.
we go back a long ways. So I can remember a conversation that we had. I don't think I've shared it with you, where we're walking between classes, and I remember you saying, "We're learning all this theory. I want to build something."
Yeah.
I don't know if I remember
I
that.
do remember
You do remember
that.
that?
I do remember that.
And look at you building some things. So
That's
I'm
true.
really proud of you. So with that being said, you covered a lot of ground here, and I know that. Do you have some of your security products? Do you have anything that works with the music industry at all?
Well, so what we're trying to build is a product that is what's called plug and play, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so while it is mostly geared to web-based types of application and also sensor data, it could easily be put into a home entertainment system, or it could be in a speaker or anything, anywhere in which you can imagine Wi-Fi or Bluetooth operating is the same way our technology can be used as well.
Really?
So could it save you? It could stop pirating of copyrighted material, things of that nature as well.
Yeah, so we do have an application where we're talking about protected NFTs,
NFTs,
and
right.
so non-fungible tokens. And NFTs, for those of you who are not familiar with, is basically a digital asset that you have that has some uniqueness to it.
Cryptocurrency?
It's kind of like a crypto.
Oh,
It's kind of
similar.
based behind cryptocurrencies. But what's unique about it is that's different than most other things is that it's digital, and then it's supposed to be unique. So once someone has a copy of that, how do you say that you are the original owner of that digital art? But what we have with our technology, we can do what's called digital watermarking. So we can watermark that so that when you create this and you use our technology, that if someone copies that technology, you can use when you have the counterfeit dollars, you can be able to find that where our signals embedded in there, and they can't find it.
They can't find it.
Right. So
Another
we have the
security
scanner.
measure.
So we
Mhm.
put the watermarking and we have the scanner that allow you to detect those. So those are the kinds of ways in which we can use our product to protect those kinds of financial operations. Even in banking, it could go to banking. It can go into like remote banking. We're going more and more using your fingerprinting and things like
That's
that,
correct.
right? You want to make sure that fingerprint wasn't copied, and so we can then provide that sort of embedded watermarking, so to speak, inside of anything that's digital and can't be discovered.
So it sounds like a lot of security attributes for your software surveillance.
And hardware.
And hardware,
so
too.
That's the big thing is the hardware part of it.
All right, good deal. Enjoying
Thank
the
you.
conversation, guys.
All
Thank
right.
you, Wayne, and happy birthday. All right, we have Miss Virginia coming up, Gloria. Congratulations on winning.
Hi, thank you.
Sure.
So, to piggyback on what you were telling him about the watermarking, I tried to explain that to my bank the other day. They need to find out who is, using other people's information and then blocking the cards and shutting them off. I don't like that because then I have to order another card. I'm part of the Take Back Our Neighborhood
Initiative.
initiative, and we're trying to stop gun violence and gang violence, and obviously any type of gun violence. We don't want that. And you had mentioned that you have some technology that not only can identify the place where, say, an active shooter is. How do you get that technology into the schools, and do you also attend trade shows? And is this something that can be scaled down to homes as well?
Yeah, those are very excellent questions, and I'm glad you asked them because our goal is with our gun alert technology is to bring it into the community, and it's not to make profit; it's to save lives.
Save lives.
So for that part of our product line, we're really going to just try to just cover our costs, right? Because the lives saved is far more outweighing any profits that could come from that. But to your point, how do you get it into the community and get it in various different places? It's about market adoption, right? And as we're early in our development cycle, right? And if we find the right partner who wants to take our technology, then we'll have some influence to say where we think this technology could be best served, right?
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. We have another Mayor Cross. She's the mayor of Glen Arden. She's hanging out with us. Thank you so much for coming up. You're doing a great job in Glen Arden, Mayor.
Thank you, Madam
Thank
Mayor.
you, Mr. Kirkland. And hello, John. Thank you so much for this beautiful presentation.
Thank you.
Now,
so
my
much.
question, I was 20 years in the United States Air Force, so I'm
okay.
active duty retired. So you actually pulled a heartstring when you said that you were looking at supporting people in the field. Now, being in the field, how is it that you will have Wi-Fi incorporated in the field use?
All right, so Wi-Fi. Most folks think about Wi-Fi just to surf the web, but what Wi-Fi is originally intended to do is to connect people in a local area. The LAN is local area network. Right? You don't have to have what's called a backhaul to the larger internet. So in the field, when you have soldiers doing a mission, they need to communicate to each other, but oftentimes you want them to communicate stealthy because you don't want adversaries, and
You
sometimes
said stealthy? Explain, what does that mean?
Without being camouflaged, without being detected, right? Because you can
Stealth mode, yeah.
stealth mode, right? So everybody can detect a Wi-Fi signal, but so there's something called hiding in plain sight, and that's what our technology does. It means that you can know that there's a signal out there, but you don't know there are two signals out there. Right.
There we
So
go.
you see this ordinary traffic going on, and then they can maybe disrupt the Wi-Fi channel, but they cannot disrupt our technology. So we like to think of our system. Think about the HOV lane, right? So you have the main traffic going, then you have the HOV lane. We're the HOV lane for everyone else's traffic, right? Think about it like from that standpoint. And so soldiers then will communicate back to a command post or something to that effect, which is not as far as a base station might be in the normal traffic. So we have to be able to work, 10 to 15 kilometers based on the requirement of the mission. So we have different versions of the technology that operates in stealthy mode, where it's that you just transmit just enough emissions to communicate within 15 or 20 feet of each other. And then sometimes there's, backhaul communications. We got to get back to command posts or something like that to let the leadership there know what's going on in the field. So we can support both of those use case applications.
And then the second question, have you hardened the software to ensure that it doesn't or isn't susceptible to like an EMP attack or something like that?
Well, so that's sort of more of a material question. So that does exist, right? So if you do anything space qualified, because I started up my career in NASA, so I know about this. You can harden it to certain levels of types of radiation and such. But most commercial products, so we won't build the chips, right? Remember I said that we just give them the negatives and they print the chips.
Right.
They print the chips for you. So the government will pay for the hardening if they expect that to be an issue for the missions that they're going, but the average consumer product won't have that in there. Now, if it's deemed, say, like something on the lines of as part of a terrorist countermeasure, then they might ask for it to be printed. So the design wouldn't change. It's just about the process that you manufacture with it and how costly that would be to do it. So it's equipped to do it. I thought you were going to ask a slightly different question, that if someone were to find a chip, could they then reverse engineer? And that's the question I was anticipating. And so the answer to that is no. It's because we have this called a zero-out functionality. So when tamper-proof. So if you tamper with the chip, it shorts itself out. So you can't get to the underlying.
Like Mission Impossible.
Mission Impossible. This will self-explode.
This will self-explode in 20
last
seconds.
question on nanotechnology.
Okay.
Have you evolved your imaging into nanotechnology, the wave of the future?
No, and it's mostly a cost thing, right? So as you go to the smaller node processing, the price goes up exponentially. So nano, which is the very smallest node process, is the most expensive process, and we are trying to get our foot in the door. But again, the great thing about the buying the software that I was mentioning earlier is that same software can then just be targeted for nanotechnologies. It's a little bit of redesign, but all of the hard work has already been done. And so that's why a larger company might license our product, and they would then move it to nanotechnology, and they have all of the sort of the roadmap to build the chip for whatever node processor they want.
Very well. Thank you.
Great questions. Thank you so much. Anyone else here wants to ask a question in the studio? Oh, we have somebody coming up. Oh, Taja. She's one of the great PR folks in the DMV area.
Hello, good afternoon. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Your vision is incredible. So I heard you mention like in 5 years you want to retire. Like he said, like Walter said, I'm a community and PR person. Do you have any initiatives, initiatives for upcoming young adults, young men particularly, who want to pursue a career in engineering or technology, that maybe internships, co-op programs, mentoring programs? Of course, we know our young men here, especially in the DMV area, definitely need someone like yourself to inspire, empower. Like I'm a single mom my son goes to DeMatha, and I purposely sent him to a single-sex school because, of just keeping the men on track, keeping the young men in track. Of course, they do sports, things like that, but engineering is one of the top in technologies, is innovating, cutting edge. Do you have any initiatives or currently or in the future?
So that's a very good question. So I have, through Wayne and 100 Black Men, have participated in their mentor programs. At the moment, I don't have the bandwidth to be able to do initiatives because I literally work 70 hours a week.
Sure, I can imagine.
But when called upon,
Sure.
I'll do volunteer my time and my expertise for helping young Black men, because I was raised by a teenage single mom myself, right, that was on public assistance. So I know the struggle to go from there to where I'm at today. And so I do believe in that. And one of the things that I want to do is create scholarships once I retire.
Wonderful.
So
Great.
put my money back into the community to help lift up. So that's And to all, have scholarships to HBCUs, to my alma maters, because I've been to a lot of universities, not just the three that I mentioned. So I just want to be a bridgeway for folks to find their way.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
and,
you.
Brother Henderson on Zoom, if you're out there in Chicago, I don't know if you're out there. Mr. Terry, Dr. Terry doesn't even know this, but they want to use your services for our leadership. We have a leadership institute, Wayne. You know about this, Wayne, in Atlanta, and they wanted to use your services. We'll talk in the green room, but could be a great opportunity depending on your schedule. Anybody else here wants to say have a question? Come on up. Who's this nice lady? Come on up. How are you?
Good evening. So nice of you to enlighten us with such great knowledge. And my quick question is, would you help new business owners? Any advice for new business owners, or would your company do you guys only go with part?
Yeah. So I understand your question. Do I work with small business as well as large? Oh yeah. So obviously, when you're a small business, you tend to oftentimes work with other small businesses because you all understand the struggle that you're trying to do. And I make it a habit that if I can help someone, whomever it might be, I try to lend them a hand. I've done mentoring of smaller companies, help them, express some of the challenges that I've gone through, some of the lessons learned to help perhaps, I've written a lot of grants and given some advice about how you might want to structure your grants and things like that. Not that I'm an expert or whatever it is, the thing that you're doing, but there's certain business aspects that you can, apply across different business enterprises that I would share with them. Sometimes you want to keep your books together, right?
That's right.
So, I will, share that I use QuickBooks. That's a very well-respected software accounting tool that doesn't cost that much, but
right.
Once you learn it, your company can grow, with that same software tool without having to spend more money. So those are the kinds of things that I've done, and I've always, opened myself up to help whomever I can when I can.
So how do we set up a meeting with you? Call or?
Yeah. So I'll have a card, and you can just,
After the show. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sam, did you have a question? Then we're going to go to Zoom land out there, and you guys have been waiting patiently. Go ahead, Sam.
Thanks, John. I can't pass up the opportunity. First to say thank you.
Tell them who you are.
Sam Williams, second. I'm a community servant, sir. Do a lot of things. Also have a technology background.
Okay.
My stepfather was a computer science teacher at Notre Dame, so I went to Notre Dame when I was 10.
Okay.
And actually did a lot of things. 2015, we gave them the federal government a solution for 911 text messaging when Barack Obama was in. So, of course, they moved that away from us because we had other things.
Sure.
That we need to, I guess, provide for them.
Right.
Talk about those challenges, of course, later.
Sure.
But with technology, I'm an advocate.
Okay.
I'm certified with Avaya, Cisco, and work with all the ILEC and CLEC phone companies.
Right.
So this thing is really telling you thank you.
Okay.
Because you represent what we need. And I'm one of those young men that you would open the door for. And so, Tasha, thank you for actually asking the question that I was going to ask, because we work a lot with the youth.
Right.
And to hear that you have plans, future going, we already are thanking you for what you're doing for us in the community, providing a platform so that we can learn from you and how to work with procurement and work with the federal government. So with that being said, how does it feel? Are you ready to open these doors for us? How does it feel to be in this position?
It's interesting. You feel like you have to.
You have to. You're
You feel
compelled
like
to.
You have to. It's just that I work all the time, right? And when I said it should not be this hard. I mean, starting your own company is always going to be hard.
Yeah.
It's always going to be challenging. There's always going to be bumps in the road. But I could never imagine being here today. One of my favorite aunts who recently passed, she would always remind me that when I was very young, I'd say, Auntie, I just want to make $10,000 a year, and I'll be set for the rest of my life. I'll be set for the rest of my life because, growing up on public assistance, that was like, a lot of money to me. And I'd imagine that there are a lot of folks still having those sort of very small dreams. And the thing that kept me going is that once I got to one point in my life, I thought, well, what's keep me from keep going? And so I continued to move forward. And so I tried to take those life lessons. So I was always a baller. Wayne can know I was on the basketball court, I was a baller. And I take that same competitive edge from the court to the classroom, right? And so I have a natural inquisitive nature, and I love to learn. I still do love to learn. I like to share my knowledge when I can, and so I open myself up to anybody that needs help. I support PhD students. I support local charities. I try to do what I can when I
just
can.
want to thank you, and if there's any way we can purpose fit this into the community, you got our
I'm
support.
here.
So
Thank you,
to
Sam.
serve.
Thank you. Let's transition over to Zoom. Anybody in Zoom out there has a question? Raise your hand. Hey, Ray Lucas. Let me go to Ray Lucas. Go ahead, Ray.
Hey, thank you, Walter. Can you hear me?
Yes, hear you loud and clear. You look like $1 million, sir. What are you selling? I'll take 5.
Oh, okay. I'm not selling anything today. My name is Ray Lucas. Right now I'm a STEM educator after recovering from 32 years at IBM. I retired there in 2008. But my question, well, first of all, thank you so much, Dr. Terry. What you're doing is awesome. But one of the questions I have is, with this Internet of Things thing coming up, where just about everything we own is connected to the Internet. And, people like me and Walter who are getting up in age, there are going to be a lot of medical devices that we don't want.
That's right.
I guess the things that you're building, they could be components into products. It sounds like you've got kind of like a core competency strategy that you're building technology that could be, some portion of it could be used in all kinds of different things. And I'm wondering how you protect yourself and your family with the products that are available now, excluding those special things that you know how to do that nobody else on this planet probably does.
Well, I don't get on social media that much. So that's a very so just so that to clear things up, our business plan is to go into smart cities and in the Internet of Things, and so we plan to bring this sort of protection to everyone and anyone. As far as how we currently, and I use what we have today. You have to use the cybersecurity protocols that are available to us today. But there has been studies that show that the best way to protect folks is to have a hardware component associated, because you can't duplicate hardware remotely. You can always duplicate
software.
You can always copy software anywhere in the world, but if you have to have a physical device.
Are you guys hearing this? This makes sense.
A physical device. So you think about now, like a lot of cars can be remotely operated, open with your phones. And so Apple has a technology called UWB that I was part of a startup. I worked on UWB as well when the technology first came out. When you get within a certain 3 feet of your car or 3 meters of your car can open up. So you have to have that chip, and you have to be physically within that distance. Yeah. So someone in China can't take over your car while you're driving. So that's the difference than what we're trying to do than what exists today, right? We're having a technology that's going to be a physical component that exceeds the 3 meter radius that
the radius to
3 meters allows you to have a much wider range of remote control, but with the same level of security that exists with
That's
today.
amazing. That is amazing. I'm not sure how you even designed something like that. Ray, did you have another question?
Yeah, just one other quick question, because I know for probably the last 40, 50 years, we've been kind of measuring the capacity of chips based on how many transistors you can put on. And there's this thing called Moore's Law, where, how many more chips you're putting on 6 months, you're able to put on in 6 months or so. But isn't the physics starting to get to us in terms of an inability to maybe continue to add as we are, the way technology is now, where we won't be able to add anymore because just because of the laws of physics? Do you have to deal with any of that stuff?
Is there any capacity or
Well, yeah, that's-
limitations?
Yes, there always are, and I know I'm familiar with Moore's law. So what the big and what industry is moving towards now, is something called quantum computing.
Quantum computing.
So with quantum computing, for the same area and size, you get exponential more power, right? So as you're trying to combat, what Moore's law is all about is trying to put more transistors in a square area of square millimeter, so to speak. Where once that starts to level off, then what you want to do is to increase the processing in that same square millimeter, and that is in quantum computing.
I see.
All right.
Great. The young lady above you has, thank you, Ray. You're awesome, Ray. Lady with her hand raised up. I can't see your name. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Cynthia Mason Posey. I am a 30-year Army retiree.
Okay.
And
Thank you for your service.
member- Thank you for your support. And a proud member of Lambda Beta Alpha Military Sorority Incorporated.
Nice. Great organization. Great sorority.
My question had to do with the watermark. And I think it was your daughter came back and gave me a response to the question. But my second part of the question about the watermark, is this something that you anticipate will be easy for a layperson to implement? I'm thinking about all kinds of uses, but I'm a former Cisco instructor at Prince George's Community College, but not everybody has that knowledge base.
Good point.
So
How do you dumb it down?
would be for a layperson? Yeah, exactly. Dumb it
Yeah.
down.
John, how do you dumb it
How
down?
would it be for a layperson to implement?
Yeah.
So that's a very good question. So the goal is to be a simple click for the layperson. So they will simply drag in the document or image that they
I
would
see.
like to protect, and you hit click, and then that's all they need to do in this, and we embed.
On the right. So similar to the old steganography. I love this. Okay.
Right. You just drag it over into our software, and then you hit click, and then
Drag and drop.
drag it, and then now it's encrypted for you, and you can send it out, without worrying.
Anybody?
Thank you very much.
No.
I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, he's amazing. People like this we got to give them exposure. This is why we're doing this. We need investors. Anybody else in Zoom land? Any questions? I know this is a technical topic, but anybody else? Perlissa, do you have a question?
Hi, Walter. How are you?
Good to see you, my sister.
Good to see you. Dr. Terry, so I am Melissa Wilson. I am also a almost 33-year
Wow, thank you.
veteran of the United States Army, retiring in this year, and I'm also a proud member of Lambda Beta Alpha Military Sorority. So my question is based on this. In your field, in your career field, what is the diversity of minorities and or women in your career field? Have you studied that, and do you look for opportunities to employ more minorities, especially women, and or other service members, so veterans or reservists that are working in science and technology already in the Army, but maybe serving in the Army Reserves or the Army National Guard or some other reserve component of service, so DOD, since that is one of your biggest supporters for what you do.
Great.
Thank you for supporting service members. We appreciate it.
Great question. Go ahead, John. What do you think?
Right. So the short answer to your question is yes and yes. So our COO is a West Point grad and retired Army. So
we go.
we leverage on his vast knowledge of the of the industry and the military and the operational space to help make sure our products are standing in line with the soldiers' needs. With regards to what is the percentage of minorities in STEM fields, those are published numbers, but I can tell you from experience that oftentimes I'm the only person of color in the room, no more than two. I can go to a conference of, recently I went at the conference in where we met the
At the National Harbor.
in that National Harbor,
Mhm.
and there 500 people there, and maybe there are 10,
Minorities.
20, minorities. And most of them aren't all technical. Some of them are technical sales, there might be management, and so on and so forth. So there is more of us, than it used to be, but not enough of us as it needs to be.
Clarissa, I think the numbers are staggering. John, can you elaborate? Let's say someone has to mute their line. I hear somebody out there. If you were to get, let's say, this thing funded, isn't the numbers staggering in terms of proliferation with your product and what could impact the world?
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
give them some examples of an example.
Well, for instance, given proper funding, right? We could be part of smart cities, and so it could be in meters.
What do you mean meters? Talk about
smart meters.
For
in the future, they're going to be utility cars, parking. There's a new push for cars to speak to each other, right? And so that's coming down the road. And so you don't want someone to be able to take over someone else's car and then use it as a weapon of mass casualty, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you need that kind of protection for that. We can be in almost everywhere and nowhere you would not know us. We can be in smart lights. We can be in your security systems, in your home security systems. We can be tags that you can have your kids track with, so that if God forbid they get taken and they try to take off their phone.
If I could interject from a layman's perspective, because what you have is very technical. What he's saying is, ladies and gents in the studio and also in Zoom land, the impact of his technology is so significant in terms of what's happening with, war, crime, criminal infiltration, cybersecurity, that it's at a whole different level. That he has a Tesla. I took a drive in his Tesla. It's phenomenal. Of the smart technology that his technology could use that could change the world in terms of security and safety. And then if he gets this funding, it could be really significant, Perlissa, for bringing in other minorities, bringing in other institutes, the 100 Black Men, et cetera. But we need to get the funding in order to get to that point. Can you walk them through the process? Let's say you get the funding, what happens next?
So that's a good point. So when we get our funding, the first thing we will do is then build products around the chips.
Around the chips.
Right. And then once we do products around the chips, we will participate. Someone asked me before about trade shows. We'll start participating in some of the larger trade shows like Mobile World Congress, which takes place in Barcelona every year, where all the major electronic manufacturers and operators participate. We will participate in CES, which is in Vegas this year. In January, we plan to go there, but we will hold a booth and we would then demonstrate our product to the masses, so that we can get the word out in these venues. Then we'll also participate in conferences that are specifically geared towards military. Towards the military, so they can understand the benefits that are outside of perhaps Army.
And then once that's identified, what happens next?
So then, hopefully, then someone would want to take a test drive. They want to see your product operating in some of their use cases.
In their use cases.
Right, and then you would then sign some sort of letter of intent.
Non-disclosure
Non-disclosure, but a letter of intent, do a pilot program where you say, well, we're gonna roll out a certain percentage of our technology into your network and show you how it can improve your network. And so that's sort of the stages that you go through. And then, once they adopt you, then that's when you can retire.
And it comes to standardized process.
You come to standardized. Once you get in the phone, you never have to work another day of your life. Wow. Because the phones sell themselves, right? Every year, whether you are an Android user or you're an Apple user, the new phone comes out, you're going to buy that phone. And if your technology...
And to be honest, with this phone right here, John, if I would have said to you just 15 years ago, I would have a phone like this, Michelle Latimer, and, it's just like a laptop, and I can take pictures. I never thought I'd be using this phone like this in terms of the uses of this phone. So what John has is way ahead of leading technology. So John, we've had a great hour. So where do we go from here, John? What do you need? What are you asking? Where do we go from here? How can we help you?
Well, I'm looking to get help from our community, right? And some of the barriers that I'm going through, again, it's not unique to me, right? And with your help, I can help later, right? It's sort of a handshake agreement.
Yes.
You help me get to where I need to be, and I'm gonna bring as many people as I can to get there with me. You know, many other communities help their own, right? We have to, share that kind of enthusiasm to promote our folks in our community that can then be one of the things I want to do is be a exemplar of what we can do in the technology space. Oftentimes, since we don't have a large presence in the technology space, the assumption is that we don't contribute in the technology space. And it's a long history of how people in our community have created innovation that we use every day, but we haven't been given the recognition for that, right? And so I'm hoping to sort of change that, that conversation to a certain degree, and then again, to mostly help our, young men and women find a way and see there's another way. You don't have to think about being in the entertainment business in order to be successful, right? And there's nothing wrong with being in the entertainment business, but there's also a pathway to be successful and contribute to society from a technical standpoint, and is very rich.
So, John, what's the call to action, John?
The call to action is to come to our website, see what we're doing.
What's your website? Nice and slow.
Okay, www.espre, that's ESPRE tech.com. So it's right down here. You see how Espre is spelled. Contact us. We have a lot of stuff about our product on the webpage. We will be doing more things, with Walt, who's going to help us, to spread, the word around about the things that we're doing, and the kinds of ways in which we can impact folks' lives. But yeah, come visit us at our website and drop us a note, and we'll get back to you.
So specifically, do you have any trade shows coming up, any events coming up that people can support you, or any initiatives?
CES. That's in Vegas in January.
In January, you'll have a presence there. CES.
We will. We are trying to decide whether or not we're going to have a booth there or not. It sort of depends on how far we get along with our demos. But we will be there talking and introducing ourselves to some of the major players in the industries coming up. And then hopefully we will be launching some of our product lines in mid-2023. 2023. Right. So, we're looking for funding to support those activities as well.
And specifically for the funding, can they go to your website to do the funding, or should they reach out to your, do you have a person specific for the funding?
Yes, I have a publicist that I'll have them reach out to. Previously, we had a crowdfunding that unfortunately just ended last week, so I could have directed you to that platform. Okay. We haven't decided whether or not we want to do another crowdfunding round, or we're just going to do like a private investment portfolio for interested investors.
So folks in the audience, I want to thank you for your time, and people on Zoom. I mean, this is pretty significant. How often do you have a person of color, an inventor with over 50 patents, one more time, with 50 patents, with technology, how do you even get a patent? So I'm extremely impressed with this man. So we need to tell our friends and family and investors, invest into this company. Again, you can go right below me and look at that website below. John, give them that website again one more time.
www.espretech.com. That's ESPRETECH.com.
All right. And we have another person that's raising her hand out there. Ma'am, you have your hand up real quick? Ma'am?
I'm sorry. I think Dr. Terry already answered the question.
Terrific.
How to get in contact with him and to become an investor.
Oh, okay. Well, we need. So who are you with?
My name is Gladys Perez.
Oh, that's Gladys. Oh, Gladys.
In education. So
yes.
She also answered questions about that. How do we get?
Gladys is in New York City, by the way, in Brooklyn.
A lot of educators. That's right.
Yes.
New York City, Brooklyn. A lot of the older teachers are afraid of technology, if I may use that word.
No, you can.
And so we're not pushing them in that direction. So New York City has over 1 million children in the public school system. And those who are in the right
zip codes get the STEM program or push towards those high schools that will cultivate, a career. So I have been in middle school, and so I want to make that connect with the children instead of just playing the game and using the technology, but to understand it and to also.
Oh, I like that. Instead of just.
I'm so happy, and I'm not I wasn't a tech teacher, I was an English teacher. So I'm so happy to have sat in on this, and I'm very interested in helping to support this mission. So thank you.
Well, I'll be in touch, Gladys. I have your information from an investor standpoint. Anybody else on Zoom land before we close it out? Is that Elizabeth? Elizabeth, that's you from Washington? Hey, Elizabeth. She's out from Seattle, Washington. How are you, Elizabeth? Say hi. All the way in Seattle.
I think she's muted.
She's muted. Unmute yourself. I got you, Ray. Hold on. Unmute yourself. Okay, she's just going to say hi. Go ahead. I think Ray has a quick announcement. Go ahead.
Again, my name's Ray Lucas, and there's an organization in Maryland, regional organization. It's called the Maryland Innovation Security Institute. They've got an operation called Dreamport, run by a brother named Armando Say.
Oh, yeah, he's impressive.
Yeah, one of the things the main thing they do there is they produce cybersecurity talent. And it's in Columbia and the Gateway area, the business area there. And if you go to the Dreamport site, I think it's dreamport.org or something like that. You'll find it. They basically, they bring in students, they have internships, they have all kinds of programs. They do software and hardware. They have a red team that basically infects stuff, and a blue team that comes in and fixes.
Oh, look at that, John. A little testing there.
Those skills. Wow. And John, I'd be more than happy to introduce you to Armando because I think you guys need to talk.
I greatly appreciate that.
We'll make that happen.
They're funded by a lot of government agencies, military, and also, let's see, and some of what they call the Beltway bandits out there, the contractors that work in that IT and security area and intelligence stuff.
Okay.
It's a phenomenal place to see.
We'll make that connection.
Quick,
go ahead, John.
Shout out the gentleman in the middle of the screen.
Who's the guy in the middle?
That's my son.
That's your son?
Yeah.
Oh, what's up there, son? Okay. Oh, man, welcome, brother. Hey, so tell us about your dad, man. What kind of guy is this guy here? This guy is intensely...
Inventor of all time. But all jokes aside, yeah, man, I think that one of the biggest challenges that we face, I've worked with him for a little bit on this project.
Sure.
One of the biggest challenges that we face is really, translating it into layman's terms and then getting people to understand the significance of it and getting, our cultures to band together and look, be forward thinking. Like you said, it's really no different in my eyes than a presidential election. Like once I get elected, then I can help bring you guys up this, but we have to do that for work at the beginning. So, I've been taking notes, and hopefully I can contribute by reaching out to a few different people. But he's a great guy, and I think that if anyone is going to be able to lead us into the next, the technical revolution of minorities being the face of that, I think it's my father. Not just saying that because he is my dad, but I think I've seen him, like he says 70 hours a week. It might be close to 100, to be honest with you, like hours and hours and hours. And still makes time to volunteer and do all these other things and, help people out. So I remember since I was young, the things that I see in like Black Panther and those movies.
Yes.
Stuff I was like dreaming about my dad doing when I was younger, and that's, honestly, that's
Man, that's amazing.
If I can really get people to understand that and help us really get him to the forefront of it, I'm telling you, he'll bring everyone with him however we can. So I encourage guys, whoever's out there watching, even if you have connections to the school system.
We have a few.
Yeah, even if we can't donate.
Gladys,
Even if we can invest a bunch, you know what I mean? If you've got 40,000, people in the school system, $5 from each person,
I like that. Yes, now you're talking. Are you guys hearing that out there?
Look, and a lot of times I think people think like, man, you need millions, I can't do this, and this. But, I mean, if we knew a million people and everybody gave $1.
Singles are better than a home run sometimes.
Yeah, so don't skip over pennies trying to get all the dollars. So I think anything that we can do collectively, slowly, have an initiative to get people to donate or invest rather, would be very, very helpful. So I mean, I know my desk is busy. If anyone has any, questions about how to organize things, I'd be happy to help whatever in any way that I can. But I definitely want to see us kind of band together and let's be like a catalyst for.
Well, I like what you said. I like what you said. That's why I like the younger generation, because they can just kind of dumb it down for us. You're saying like a grassroots program. You could get 1 million people with $1. You can get 1 million people with $20. So folks on Zoom and in the studio, you see what this man's about. He can change the world. So anybody interested, you can put that in the chat area, or contact me directly. I mean, just thank you for those comments, young man. I think we're going to close this out. We're closing statements. I want to thank everybody in the studio audience give yourself a round of applause for your attention. This is a very technical thing. It's kind of hard to understand for the layman's perspective, but you did a really good job. And folks in Zoom land, give yourself a round of applause out there. Clap your hands, clap your hands. I know you're multitasking out there. I really appreciate you being involved. Ray, thank you for your great comments, and everybody else out there. And John, I just want to thank you for you coming out, and appreciate you, man. And what are your closing statements, brother? I mean, I'm real impressed with you. I'm so honored to work with you. What are your closing statements?
I want you guys to grow with us. This is all about being a part of a community. Join with us now, and so that you can be part of something that you can tell your grandkids about. That, hey, I was there when we were first starting this, right? Like you talk about the phone. I remember I actually worked at Nokia when they were talking about things like this, and so now to be on the other end, on the other side of that, is kind of pretty interesting. But I'm looking for how our community do something that can be an exemplar for the world.
All right, give it up for John Terry, Dr. John Terry here on Kirkland's Corner. I want to say bye for now. I appreciate you. We bring the heat every single week. I also want to thank you, Broadcast Media, and I also want to thank 2106 Multimedia for their great production. I could not do this. Thank you so much, guys. You have a productive week. God bless you, and go out there and make a difference. And if we have a saying that the 100 Black Men, Wayne knows this, what you see is what you'll be, and he's doing it right here. God bless. Have a good day.